Hello everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. In the last class, we learnt about accounts from incomplete records, also known as single entry system, right? So it means what? Accounting records which are not strictly kept according to the double entry system are known as incomplete records. Means they are incomplete. Means in proper accounting, we maintain journal, ledger, trial balance and final accounts, right? But in incomplete records, business owners usually maintain only cash book, personal accounts and some bills and vouchers. Clear? This is what? Incomplete records. And in incomplete records, how we will ascertain the profit or loss? There are mainly two methods. They are, first one it is statement of affairs method and second one is conversion method. So in this class we are going to discuss about statement of affairs method, means how we will find out the profit or loss using incomplete records of the business. Clear? Now let's discuss about statement of affairs method. See here, statement of affairs method meaning. It is a statement showing assets and liabilities of a business on a particular date to find capital. It means what? Statement of affairs method. It means what? It is a statement showing assets and liabilities of a business on a particular day to find the capital, to find out the capital. So what is the formula of capital? That is assets minus liabilities. Means this is similar to balance sheet, but it is not a balance sheet. Remember, clear? Statement of affairs method, that is similar to balance sheet, but that is not balance sheet. Here in statement of affairs, that is a statement that shows the assets and liabilities to find out the capital. Clear? So statement of affairs method is used to find profit or loss when complete records are not available. Clear? It is similar to a balance sheet but prepared from incomplete information. Balance sheet, that is always prepared from complete information, but here this statement of affairs method, that is prepared from incomplete information. Clear? And under this method, statement of assets and liabilities as at the beginning, assets and liabilities as at the beginning and at the end of the relevant accounting period are prepared to ascertain the amount of change in the capital during the period. Clear? Beginning and ending, we need to calculate the capital. Clear? Such a statement, that is known as statement of affairs. Clear? Now the statement of affairs that resembles balance sheet, but it is not called a balance sheet because the data is not wholly based on ledger balances. Clear? And here the amounts of items like fixed asset or outstanding expenses, bank balances, etc. are ascertained from the relevant documents and physical count. Clear? That is what? Statement of affairs method. Clear? Now statement of affairs method, that is a statement showing assets and liabilities of a business on a particular date. On a particular date to find out the capital. Formula is capital equals to assets minus liabilities. So let's see the steps involved in statement of affairs method. First step, it is prepare opening statement of affairs to determine the opening capital. Clear? Prepare statement of affairs at the beginning of the year to find out opening capital. Opening capital equals to assets minus liabilities. Clear? Now step second, after computing opening capital, we need to determine closing capital. For that we need to prepare closing statement of affairs. Closing statement of affairs. Clear? So prepare statement of affairs at the end of the year to find out closing capital. Same, closing capital equals to closing balances of assets minus closing balances of liabilities. Clear? First step is we need to prepare opening statement of affairs to find out the opening capital, and step second, prepare the closing statement of affairs in order to find out the closing capital. Clear? Now step third, after finding out opening and closing capital, finally we need to calculate the profit or loss under statement of affairs method. How we will calculate? What is the format? First we need to write down capital as at the end of the year. That is, in step second we calculated the closing capital. So write down. And from that we need to add drawings during the year. Drawings, it means what? Drawings are the money taken by the owner for personal use. Clear? Why we need to add drawings during the year here? So this reduces the capital, but it is not a business loss. Drawings, that is not a business loss. This is the money taken by the owner for personal use. That is not a business loss. So when calculating actual profit under statement of affairs method, we add drawings back to closing capital. Clear? I hope this is clear to you all. Now from that we need to deduct less additional capital introduced during the year. Additional capital means extra money introduced by the owner. Why we need to deduct additional capital introduced during the year? So this increases the capital. Definitely it increases the capital, that is the additional capital, but it is not a profit. Like drawings, it is not a business loss. Like additional capital, that is not a profit. Clear? But that increases the capital. So while calculating the actual profit, we deduct additional capital that is introduced during the year. So don't get confused here. Drawings we need to add to the closing capital, and we need to deduct the additional capital introduced during the year, because drawing, that is not a business loss, and again additional capital, that is not a profit. You remember these 2 points. Clear? And after that again we need to deduct capital at the beginning of year. In the step 1 we calculated opening capital. That one we need to deduct. First we need to write down the closing capital. For that we need to add drawings, deduct additional capital, again deduct the opening capital. Then we will arrive profit or loss made during the year. If closing capital is more, profit. If closing capital is less, loss. Right? Simple, right? So this is a very simple method to calculate the profit or loss using incomplete records. Now let's see one example. See here. For example, Mrs. Vandana runs a small printing firm. So accounts from incomplete record, that is followed by small businesses. Right? So here Mrs. Vandana, he runs a small printing firm. She was maintaining only some records which she thought were sufficient to run the business. Clear? On April 1st, 2025, available information from her records indicated that she had the following assets and liabilities. Means April 1st, beginning of the year. So printing press rupees 5 lakh, building 2 lakh, and stock 50,000, cash at bank 65,600. And cash in hand 7,980, and dues from the customers, that is 20,350, and dues to creditors, that is rupees 75,340, and outstanding wages rupees 5,000. So this information, this is useful to calculate the opening capital, because here the information that is given on April 1st, 2025. Clear? Now she withdrew rupees 8,000 every month for meeting her personal expenses. Means this is the drawing. 8,000 every month means 8,000 into 12 months, right? For this drawings, what we have to do? See here, see the format. We need to add to the closing capital. We need to add to the closing capital while calculating the profit or loss. It is not included in the opening capital calculation. Remember. Clear? Now, she has also introduced rupees 15,000 during the year as additional capital. Means she introduced rupees 15,000. Again, this information we need to consider when calculating the profit or loss. We need to deduct. Right? And next, on March 31st, 2026, her position was as follows. March 31st, 2026 means this is the information that is relating to closing capital. That is press 5,25,000, building rupees 2 lakh, stock 55,000, cash at bank rupees 4380, cash in hand rupees 15,340, dues from customers rupees 17,210 and dues to the creditors that is rupees 65,680 means this is the creditors comes under liability side of the balance sheet, right? And calculate the profit made by Mrs. Vandana during the year using statement of affairs method. Clear? So let's solve the problem. So what is the first step? First step is prepare opening statement of affairs to find out the opening capital. What is the formula? Assets minus liabilities that is equals to opening capital. See now, first here prepare opening step 1, prepare opening statement of affairs, books of Mrs. Vandana, statement of affairs as on April 1st, 2025. This is the format like balance sheet, but this is not a balance sheet. This is similar to balance sheet. Here we are preparing this statement of affairs using incomplete records. Clear? See now, on the write down liabilities, assets. On the asset side, what we need to write down? All the assets. See here. On April 1st, 2025, see the date very carefully. This is the beginning of the year. So write down printing press 5 lakh, building 2 lakh, stock 50,000, cash at bank 65,600 and cash in hand rupees 7,980 and dues from the customers 20,350 means that is the debtors. See here. Debtors 20,350 from the dues that is from the customers means that comes under asset side, right? You remember, right, this one? And after that go to the liability side. In liability side, dues to creditors means creditors how much? 75,340. Outstanding wages rupees 5,000. That's it, right? Right. Yes. Outstanding wages 5,000 and creditors 75,340. Now asset side is more. That is equals to rupees 8,43,930. Now capital. Now here we will get opening capital, that is the balancing figure. Deduct these two amounts from 8,43,930. So we will get 7,63,590. That is our opening capital balancing figure. So step 1 is over. Now what is the second step? We need to find out the closing statement of affairs means we need to find out the closing capital. So the information given here, see here, on March 31st, 2026, her position was as follows. Write down in the asset side, press, building, stock, cash at bank 4380, cash in hand 15,340, dues from the customer 17,210 means debtors. See here. Right? Now go to the liability side, write down creditors. Dues to creditors how much? 65,680 and here outstanding wages are not there, right? Now asset side is more, again total it, that is 8,52,930 and deduct 65,680. Now we will arrive closing capital balancing figure, that is 7,87,250. Clear? So this is the closing statement of affairs. Now step 3, that is the last step. We need to find out the profit or loss. First we write down closing capital. So our closing capital is how much? 7,87,250. In the step 2 we calculated, right? So write down capital as on step 3, calculate profit or loss. So capital as on March 31st 2026, how much? 7,87,250. For that we need to add drawings during the year. So see the problem here. She withdrew rupees 8,000 every month for meeting her personal expenses. Means every month 8,000 into 12. That is how much? Rupees 96,000. So total 8,83,250. Now deduct additional capital introduced during the year. How much? That is rupees 15,000. See here. Also introduced rupees 15,000 during the year as additional capital. So then we will get 8,68,250. Now from that again we need to deduct the opening capital. Capital as on April 1st 2025, how much? Here in the step 1 we calculated, right? That is 7,63,590. So deduct 7,63,590. See here, closing capital is more and opening capital is less. If closing capital is more, what? Profit. So in our problem also, closing capital is more and opening capital is less. So profit made during the year, how much? 1,04,660. Easy, right? So in this way we need to calculate profit or loss under statement of affairs method using incomplete information. Clear? So I hope this problem is clear to you all. If you have any doubts in this concept, please leave a comment. Thank you.